Is Michael Ramage. I am the director of the Cyber Education Research Center at Murray State, and joining me today is Chad Price. Chad, how are you?
Doing good, Michael. How are you?
Good. Well, let's start off. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so I work for Worldwide Technology. It's a technology company based in St. Louis, privately held company of about 7,000 employees. I currently am the senior PMO manager for our East region and global service provider region. So we lead all of our professional services projects in the East region for commercial accounts. Think of your top Fortune 50 type of companies that are headquartered on the East Coast. So a lot of large pharmaceutical companies. And then also I have a global service provider. So think of your top 5, top 10 global service providers. So think of your carriers, think of your media companies, those type of things, right? So, all your cell phone providers, all those type of carriers. So we run all of their professional services projects as well. I been at Worldwide for roughly 5 years. I currently have 3 managers on my team that are PMO managers, and then within their teams, they each have roughly 10 to 12 direct reports, which are senior PMs, and PCs. So, been in this role for a little over a year and a half. Prior to that, I have been at Worldwide. I've been a senior PMO manager, not our senior PM, not too long ago. Was a PMO manager before that in our central region. So I've been promoted about 3 times at Worldwide. I've been in about a year and a half in each role. That's kind of where I'm at now. Kind of how I got here is when after I left Murray State, I moved to St. Louis and started out as a pre-sales engineer with SBC, which is now AT&T for folks. And started there, and I didn't really like the sales aspect of it, but I did a lot of management of projects or working with our project managers as I was selling some of these applications and networks. So that interested me and kind of jumped over. I knew that manager and started kind of managing network projects. So at the time we were putting in, think of your fiber circuits, your dedicated, they call them Fibermon or Gigamon type of circuits, dedicated private networks. We were doing a lot of MPLS 20 years ago now, which is now SD-WAN and some of the other technologies. But we were doing that 20 years ago. I managed a lot of those network projects and was there for 4 or 5 years, got my PMP while I was there. And that kind of started my career. And then from there, I kind of bounced around to a couple different consulting companies that did professional services and a little bit different project management. There you're focused a lot in the professional services. We focus a lot on scope, schedule, and budget. Whereas when I was at the phone company, we spent a lot of time managing mainly around scope and schedule, just trying to get circuits in. When you get to professional services, everything's based on gross profit and margin and managing those type of projects. So got about 15, 20 years worth of doing that level of project management before I moved into a manager role.
Awesome. So you've been around this for a while. So in your years of experience, your 20 years of experience, 20 plus years of experience, share a cool project management story. It could be maybe the most exciting project that you worked on or a specific experience that you've had.
Yeah, so I can't use the client name, but I can kind of use the environment. So a couple of ones I've done that have been pretty interesting. So I've done a large wireless phone deployment for one of the largest hospitals in St. Louis. So they put in a new NICU, which is for obviously a neonatal internal intensive care unit for babies, obviously. Large wing of that. So we put in all the wireless phones for them. So our team was responsible for configuring all the wireless phones, putting those in, training the nurses on how to do those, to actually use the phones. And, as you think about those phones, if you go to a hospital right now, they have a wireless phone that connects to all of the alarms within the baby's room. So you're thinking they have a system called Emergent and Epic. Anytime a baby's heart rate drops below a certain thing, they have the alarms will go off in the room. They have a secondary alarm, which goes off in a nurse station. They have a tertiary alarm, which is the phones, and the phones will then vibrate and start ringing. So that was probably one of my most rewarding projects that we managed. The engineer and I spent 6 months on site at the hospital, putting these phones in and training all the nurses. I actually did a lot of the phone training myself because I had a lot of experience doing that. Kind of a secondary project within that, I've got a lot of call center experience. So I've managed two large call center projects, one for the same hospital. So anytime you call in for patient billing, appointments, those type of things, we put those call centers and those call flows together. And then, obviously there's a lot of behind the scenes when you're doing scripting and different things, that was a rewarding project as well. A lot of interfacing with the nurses, a lot of interfacing with the end users. As a project manager, that's probably one of the larger projects and one of them where you can make more impact because you have so much interaction with the end user. As a PM, you're that face and you sit between the client and the engineering team, and you're kind of the moderator of the project and leading things. That's kind of two of the cool stories that I've done leading large projects.
Those are both interesting. On the flip side, it's not always perfect. So what has been one of your biggest challenges or maybe even a specific failure in a project that created a challenge that you have seen in project management?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, why project managers exist is because things don't go well, right? I mean, it's a network. Think about any project, right? A construction project, you're building a new hospital. Everything gets delayed, and then as you get delayed, there's everyone behind that person. So if the construction team's behind, everyone behind that group, right? All the dependencies behind that. So a project manager's job is trying to navigate the schedule and scope and trying to keep things on task. And so that's why we have jobs. So as far as failures, you're going to see that all the time. And I think the big thing is how do you react? Are you proactive? Are you communicative with the client? Are you communicative with your team? Are you understanding that? I spend a lot of time coaching my PMs and PCs to be looking out, forecasting, to try to avoid that. And I've got plenty of failures in my career. Everybody, if you've been a project manager for a long time, there's going to be failures because things are going to happen. The biggest thing that you have to do, I think the biggest failures I've seen are not looking out into the future to see the schedule and seeing where things are going to be at. And so you're so near term, you're not seeing the end of the road. And so if you're not out in front of leading, I think when I made mistakes early in my career because maybe I didn't have that particular experience and I wasn't thinking through how to look at that, right? And so I challenge young PMs and PCs to understand, communicate, be organized, and then raise your hand if you're seeing challenges and get help with leadership. So I think those are the failures that when that projects don't go well, they didn't see it early enough and raise their hand.
I think that's very good. Very well said. All right. My last question. There's going to be a lot of students watching this. So what if they are considering getting into project management, what is one tip that you would give them if they're considering it or just getting started in project management?
Yeah, I think so. Project management, I would say one of the reasons to get into it is that every organization, every company, every technology, think about everybody has project managers. There's a career path in it. When you go and look, every company has them. We work with project managers from our clients on projects. So we're delivering large projects. They typically have someone that's a facilitator on their end. So a lot of career opportunities in that space. And for the really good project managers and folks that are PMP, it's fairly high paying job for as well. So there's some opportunities that to do well, take the skills you're learning at Murray State and then apply those. And I said there are some rewarding careers in that. What I would say is if you're an organized person, you like communications, you like being in control to some extent, you like challenges, problem solving. It's a career path that that's what kind of led me to it. I liked solving problems. I like the communication aspect of it. I'm an organized person. Meticulous. That's some skill sets that do really well in project management. Now, if you're And if you're not somebody that's going to be organized or follow up on things, and maybe, attention to details, maybe not your strong point, I would say work towards that if you're thinking this is something you would work on. But, from a project management perspective, I would challenge you to say that there's so many opportunities in the space, that I would look at it from, if you have some of those skill sets or you're interested in it, there's a lot of opportunities.
Well, that was very well said. I think that's a really good advice. Well, thank you very much. We'll end with that. Thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thank you.